welcome to Asian Pulse Television. I am your host, Meena J. Thank you for tuning in to your informative and educational network. We are broadcasting from the unceded territory of Semiahmoo First Nation, Katzie and Kwantlen Nation. The Fiji Trade Commission to North America is delighted to invite you to the Fiji North America Business Forum taking place at the Sheraton Vancouver Guildford Hotel, 15269 104 Avenue, Surrey, BC, on May 6, 2024, from 9 a.m. until 2 p.m. To register, email alika@investinfiji.today. Welcome ceremony by the Aitiki Cultural Society of BC is inviting you all on Sunday, May 5th, from 11 a.m. until 4 p.m. at Peace Arch Heritage Hall on 1st Avenue in White Rock for meet and greet with the dignitaries of the Fijian delegation. Again on the same day at 6:30, a Talona session will be held at the Sheraton Guildford Hotel in Surrey from 6:30 p.m. onward. If you like to meet them and have questions, this will be an opportunity for an open forum. It's time for a short break. I'll be right back after these words from our sponsors.
क्या आप अपना ड्रीम होम खरीदना चाहते हो या अपने घर से पैसे निकालकर अपने किचन या अपने घर को रेनोवेट करना चाहते हो, लेकिन बैंक्स ने आपको मना कर दिया है? आप मुझे कॉल कर सकते हैं, यानी विक प्रसाद को। मैं एक इंडिपेंडेंट मॉर्गेज ब्रोकर हूं जो कई बैंक्स और क्रेडिट यूनियंस और प्राइवेट लेंडर्स के साथ काम करता हूं।
For more information, please call Vic Prasad at 604-306-6647. Vic Prasad is one of the top brokers of Invest Craft Mortgages and is also a member of the Canadian Mortgage Brokers Association of BC.
For any kind of visa-related services, contact Milky Way Immigration, a galaxy of opportunities located at Unit 209-9547 152 Street, Surrey, BC. They have licensed immigration consultants, placement officers, and LMIA experts to meet your immigration and recruitment needs. Book one-time free consultation either on Facebook or by calling 604-396-0005. United Pallets and Crates is located at 11585 134 Street in Surrey, BC. Give Sam Dooler a call at 604-760-2028 or call the office number at 604-634-2001. You can also visit the website, which is www.unitedpalletsandcrates.com, or send us email at info@palletsandcrates.com.
Thank you, sponsors. If you would like to be a sponsor and provide sponsorship to any segment of this show, get in touch with Camilla by calling the number 604-537-5123. We have in our studios women from Core Movement who are here in the studio, and I will be speaking to them about the work they do. Have a look. Hi, thank you for tuning in to Asian Pulse. I'm your host, Meena J, and today in the studio we have the founder of the Core Movement, Gurpreet. Welcome.
Thank you for having me here today.
Thank you for coming in. So to begin off, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you founded this foundation of the Core Movement?
So my name is Gurpreet. I started this in 2019. It was more for my own healing, to be honest. It wasn't something that I was planning to become an organization of any sort. But when I healed from my trauma and I realized how many people in our community are affected by sexual abuse within families, I'm like, this needs to be talked about. There needs to be change that needs to happen right away. I was connecting with people all over the world. They were sharing their stories with me, and my background is support work as well. So I was already in the field. So it made sense for me to do this for our community and focus on what the effects it has in our community overall. Yeah.
So it started with an Instagram page. Like, how did you get the idea of this is the format I want to use, the platform I want to use to bring a voice to obviously something that's not talked about but should be talked about?
Yes. To be honest, it was called Hush Hush. It was not called the Core Movement. I talk about this a little bit when I was going through my trauma and my mental breakdown. Let's just say it was dreams I was having. The Core Movement isn't the name I gave. I feel like it was given by God. It was something that was just put in me that day, and I was like, hey, this is going to be the Core Movement. This is all about the truth. This is about healing. And I guess that day I felt some sort of energy, power. I went from something of being very scared, shy, to all of a sudden that's it. Like, there's no fear. There's no, why am I scared? Why aren't we talking about this? This is happening in our temples, our gurdwaras, and this is so wrong. And how are we allowing this to happen? So at that time, it was just strength that I got in one day, to be honest. And I was really shocked myself, and I'm still trying to understand what happened that day. And that day, I went to the gurdwara and I matha teked, and the energy I felt that day was just something else.
Yeah.
And then the next day I changed the name to the core movement, and it was something that I didn't like think of.
Yeah.
It was just given to me. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing how things come to us at certain points. And then the core movement, it's about sexual abuse within the South Asian community. Obviously something people don't want to talk about, and pretend it's not happening, but we know it does happen. Do you know how many South Asians are affected here in Canada?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So when we talk about sexual abuse, for example, let's just talk about the organization and how many we get.
Yeah.
So for instance, within a week span, we will get about 10 new emails, 10 to 15 new emails a day just regarding sexual abuse. And a lot of people say like, oh, strangers do it, or like it's stranger danger, keep your kids away from strangers. But the statistics show that 90% of sexual abuse is within families. So it's someone you know, someone you trust. So when it's actually really, really common. It's like 1 in 10 that a child will be sexually assaulted. So these are statistics, and we need to understand that this is the reality that we are going through right now, and we need to talk about it with our kids so they're not affected by it, or they at least know that they have someone to go to and talk about what is bad touch, what is good touch. Our parents need to teach this to the kids, right? When I talk about cases, they're usually of power and authority. So like if someone has power, let's just say Walmart, like because we have a few cases that came from there. Management is sexually assaulting students that are getting into like, you know, becoming a worker there. And it's the scare tactic that they use, like, we're going to get you deported if you don't do what we say, or you're not going to have this job. So threatening, blackmailing. And usually when sexual abuse happens, it's when the other person is very vulnerable, as in they fear, they're more powerless in a way. And usually the abuser knows their target. So knowing these signs, knowing certain things, is really important, to be honest. Yeah,
and I think the most important thing, you know, it is somebody that you know.
Yes.
You know, 90% of the time it's somebody that you know, not the stranger danger. Also, you know, like in South Asian families, as a kid, you're taught to hug everybody.
Hug everybody, go to every family function.
Exactly.
So for example, like some of the cases we're dealing with right now, I don't want to go to that family function. My abuser is going to be there, because the abuser is either the taya, the mama. But even though the parents of that child know that that was the abuser and the child has shared it, but the parents re-traumatize the child by taking them to the same events. Nahi to badnaami ho jani hai. Or like log ki kehnge. That kind of situation is put on the victim, and you're actually blaming the victim in a sense. It's their fault that this has happened to them. So they're already getting re-traumatized by seeing the person at the same functions over and over again. So understanding why a victim should not be put, or a survivor of sexual abuse should not be put in that position where they're seeing that person again. I understand that we have family functions, we have weddings, we have things to go to, but why is that abuser in that function? How about question that? How about not question the victim and be like, oh, tu chup karke utthe beh ja. Like, you know, just sit there and like listen, or don't say hi to that person, or walk away, or don't like look at that person. But why is that person put in that spot? Why is the other person not been told you can't come here anymore? Why aren't you not protecting your children from this trauma? Because we have to educate ourselves on how this trauma affects us and how it affects the victim overall, right?
And so what do you think the reason is that, especially in South Asian community families, where they're aware of who the person is who's done this, but still it's kept quiet, and you know, a lot of emphasis is given on, you know, just keeping that peace, or you don't want people to know, and the shame is on the victim. What do you think Has there been a shift in that overall in families, or is there a lot of cases, first you go through the abuse and then you go through the family and, the way you're treated or not believed or believed, but still having to go to the same function, seeing the same person, and no action taken, basically?
Yeah, so when it comes to reporting in our community, that's not a thing.
Yeah.
They're like, police nu jaake report karna hai? No, don't go to the police. There's no need for it, even though what the act that has happened was illegal and against the law, and that person, if it is they are doing it to your child, they've probably done it to other children as well. So that's one thing, like they don't want to report it. Second is basically a family which, oh my god, these people are going to find out this happened to my child. Tera bya nahi hona, you're not going to get married, you're not going to, maybe it was you, why were you laughing, why were you wearing these clothes? But you're laughing with your mama, your taya. You trust these individuals. You're laughing with your cousins. You don't expect this to happen. We have cases where, like, the victim tells us that, hey, I have to go tie rakhdi every year on this one person. And my parents make me do it, but that person has sexually assaulted me. So look at the trauma that that person will be facing, right? The silence that they have to go through. The besti should be on the actual abuser.
Yeah.
And I'm
Held
sorry,
accountable for what they've done.
Call them out. Tell the family. Embarrass that person. Why are you silencing the victim? Right? And it just, the roles just need to switch. The moment you do that, there's going to be less abusers because we're calling them out. Now that I have started calling out people, for example, like, this is what you've done, we've taken it to court or anything, more victims have come forward. Now people kind of do think twice, especially the ones that have power and authority. Especially these business people or, like, everyone that think that they can get away with things. It's like, no, you can't. And our legal system is so bad. Our legal system is so flawed in the sense that they don't actually help victims of sexual and domestic abuse, because the rates of even making it to court is 3%. So if you have been raped and you have all the evidence proof it is, and it goes to court even, the chance of that perpetrator even going to jail and getting a sentence is 3%. So it's like you go through that trauma of sharing all your details, going to the police and everything, but nothing really happens. So you get discouraged. And when you do go and report it, because we get victims to go report their abuse, they'll go and they're more traumatized when they come back. So I think the overall way of our system should be more empathetic when it comes to victims. There should be support workers that are coming in. There should be people that are constantly checking up on the victim. Because when you are sexually abused and then you are sharing this trauma, there's a higher chance of you being suicidal, depression, anxiety. There's so many things that are aligned with this that we kind of just don't understand the educational aspect of it. Like, we need to understand, like, hey, this is how we should be and how we need to be if someone has come forward with their abuse. Victim blaming in our community is such a huge thing, where they'll say things like, why didn't you do something at that moment? Udo hi thappar maar dandi, or like, you should have slapped that person, or you should have told us right there and then. But there's stages, like freezing. You freeze when something traumatic is happening. And think about it, you're at a function and let's just say your mama or your taya or someone is touching you inappropriately. You're already in shock. What's happening? And then you freeze. These are some of the signs that, like, what happens with victims. So understanding and not questioning the victim, but being there for support and listening to the victim is more necessary. Instead of, why didn't you do this? Why didn't? No whys. Be like, thank you for sharing with me. Thank you for connecting with me. What can I do to help you now? How can we heal from this trauma now? Because it's already happened. So now the people don't realize how it affects relationships. Like relationships when you're going into the dating field, when you're making friends, like the trigger points, the triggers that you get. Like, for example, like, let's just say your abuser had curly hair and now you're at a grocery store and you see a person with a curly hair and you like panic. That's the response you're getting at that moment, and you feel like running away. These are little things that actually happen and you don't even realize. Nightmares, all of these, like, there's so many like signs of it as well, and we need to understand why it's happening to us and start helping ourselves. Like, survivors help themselves, and the support system around them really matters. So your parents, your loved ones, and if you keep hushing them and silencing them, you're actually affecting it and making it worse for the victim.
Yeah, I mean, any kind of abuse, if it's silent,
Yeah.
that's how the person continues.
Yeah.
If it's not talked about, it's not reported, if it's silent, it gives more power to the abuser.
Yes.
Few points you did make some, like your mental health. Obviously this, and a lot of time, I think with South Asians, especially girls, wearing or not laughing too much or, not talking to somebody too much. But obviously when they're your family members or your
Yeah.
relatives, extended family, there's that comfortability and you don't expect that behavior from them.
Yeah.
And then, and depending on your age, you might not even know what's actually happening.
Yeah,
what
because
that touch actually means.
Yeah, usually it's under the age of 18 when you're
Yeah.
sexually assaulted. You're more vulnerable at that time. Also, you're a child, and in our community, we really don't talk about sex or sexual abuse or bad touch, good touch. We don't sit with our children and be like, hey, if your family member, even if it's because you have to explain, it's usually not strangers when it comes to
Yes.
sexual abuse. So you have to explain to your child that, hey, like, if anybody you even know and you are not comfortable with, you let us know. But these conversations our parents have not had. So I'm hoping the next generation learns from this and realizes, like, hey, these conversations have to happen with their children at a young age. So they understand what it is. So they're not confused themselves.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, providing that education, I know they get from school, but also home.
Your home is so necessary.
important.
Yeah.
It's not something you just talk about at school because most of the time it's going to happen in your home
Yeah.
with somebody that you trust. Sorry,
Even leaving children under the age of 18 with
Yeah.
like babysitting or what I've left them at my uncle's house or my friend's house without any supervision. And it's like, I understand that there's work and like you have a life that you have, but you also need to understand that you're leaving the child vulnerable.
Yeah.
Like, you may say that they're your family and blood, but at the end of the day, the only people that keep you safe is hopefully the parents, because we even have cases where parents actually assault their kids. So it's really necessary to have these conversations. It's really necessary to realize that under the age of 18, it's the parents' responsibility to make sure that you're not leaving your child. Like, we have cases right now where parents are leaving their children at gurdwaras and then they leave for work. And whoever the bibis and pape are at the gurdwara, they're taking care of the kids.
Yeah.
So things like that are happening right now, and it's like, you're just leaving them. So how do you know who's doing anything to your child? And
Exactly.
even like sleepovers and stuff, you're just leaving your children, and I understand that that's your mama, tai, or whatever, but the kids that you're around, they're also experimenting too, so at least supervision should be necessary. Not leaving your children with 5, 6 of your cousins and thinking that is okay unless you're present. Like, this is your responsibility, because at young ages, that's when things happen. Like,
And, like doing the work, is it somebody that you trust 100% and not just kind of turning a blind eye that this couldn't happen? I mean, do you trust that person 100%? So when people come to you, they email you and, they're talking about their situations. What supports do you provide them?
So there's counseling services. We have volunteers from all over the world that are certified counselors, professionals that will connect with you one-on-one and pretty much help with your healing. So a start is by sharing your story, is by writing it down, talking about your trauma, and just putting it all on a page, on a paper, and journaling it is just one step. Talking about it, right?
Yeah.
And then when they connect with us, then they realize, like, hey, this is how it's affected us. They realize more about themselves, and that's when we connect them to support group services or whatever they need for their healing.
Yeah. And I guess sometimes that might be the first time they've actually told somebody or written it down. And it can be easier to share with somebody that doesn't know you. And some cases are where there's names, some cases it's anonymous most of the time. What about with the families? Like, if the families are putting the child through the same trauma again and again, How is there any work with the families also?
Yes, so it depends on whatever the survivor wants from us. So it's, do they want to reconnect with their family? Do they want to share their experience of what has happened? Because usually they have not. So we
Yeah.
would have a mediator there for them. And this is all free. Like everyone on the core movement, including myself, is a volunteer. So meaning like if you need help sharing it with your cousin, your brother, or your best friend of some sort to just have that support system around you when we're not available, right?
Yeah.
So we're there for that. If that means going to the police station and filing a report, we will go with you if that's needed. It depends on if how to explain to your parents that this is happening and this is why I'm reacting, or my anger, or anything of any sort, alcohol abuse, drug abuse. That's usually things that start happening when you have been sexually assaulted, even domestic abuse, to be honest. And then just whatever type of help they need, we want to provide to them. If that's sharing their story anonymously, like you mentioned, we barely mention names, and that's only if police reports have been mentioned, there's more than like 2 victims coming forward about that perpetrator, and then we feel like this is a safety concern for our community, because usually that person has a lot of power and authority. And we also find out by doing background checks and everything, our research on that abuser, and if we feel like the cops have not done enough to make the public aware,
Yeah.
we are that organization that will call that person out and let the public know, because that person's roaming around freely, and the public has the right to know.
Yeah, so, when you get the story, also talking to the victim and finding out as much information as you can. And like you said, very important to know that when you do share your story, I mean, the person that's sharing the story is in control of what would happen,
Yes.
what is shared.
The person has full control, because when the abuse happened with them, they were powerless, no control. So this is us giving them, what do you want?
Yeah.
How are you gonna heal from this trauma? What can we do to help you to move forward so this is not affecting your daily life?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how does somebody, there's the core movement on Instagram, there's the email, is that the way somebody would contact you?
Yes, and we have the website as well. So www.thecoremovement.com. You can email us through that as well. Email, and hopefully we will start our crisis line soon.
Okay.
So once that is, then there'll be a phone call that everyone can call, and we will talk one-on-one. So we are starting that process.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the crisis line would be 24 hours?
Yes,
Okay.
that's the goal.
So that's great.
Yeah.
And then obviously you would contact them and move forward from there.
Yes.
Is there anything else, or if somebody wanted to volunteer with you or
Yes.
provide any kind of assistance that they could to be part of this cause, how would they reach out?
So this organization is worldwide, so we get emails from all over the world, and we're looking for volunteers a lot.
Yes.
Professionals, mental health advocates, any experience of any sort, even if it's not that, and we can put you into the social media team. We have several different teams. In each country, there's a team as well.
Yeah.
So that's what we're trying to grow. So if you do want to volunteer, this is a great seva for the community. Our community needs it. So please do by going onto the website and filling out the form and application. And then we have a whole process that we go through, and then we would connect you, and you would be the volunteer of the core movement. Yeah.
Okay. That's great. Thank you for being on the show, and thank you for the work that you do, much needed, and I'm looking forward to see where it's growing, and the crisis line also. Thank you.
Thank you for having me here and giving me a voice for the community.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching Asian Pulse. Thank you, Core Movement. Please have your pen and paper ready to jot down the numbers. Mother's Day is on May 12th. It's a day to honor and show appreciation for mothers, grandmothers, and other important women in our lives. Many people celebrate by giving gifts, cards, and flowers, and spending quality time with their loved ones. Happy Mother's Day to you all. Salam Solomon live in Vancouver at Queen Elizabeth Theatre at 600 Hamilton Street in Vancouver. This is taking place on June 30th. Door opens at 6 p.m. For tickets and more information, please contact Kamal Sharma at 604-833-1977. Annual Independence Day Brunch and Dance of Independence Day of the Guyanese Canadian Cultural Association of BC is taking place on May 26 from 12 noon until 3 p.m. at South Arm Community Centre, 8880 Williams Road, Richmond, BC. For tickets and more information, please call Sylvia at 778-882-1852, Sabrina at 604-760-2085, or Diana John at 778-862-7009. Pinnacle Hotel at the Pier is doing Mother's Day Brunch Buffet on May 12th at Pinnacle Ballroom from 11 until 2:30 p.m. Adult tickets are $83 plus taxes, and children 6 to 12 is $41 plus taxes. Address is 138 Victory Shipway, North Vancouver. If you are organizing any events in your community and want us to promote it for you, please email us at asianpulse@gmail.com. We've run out of time now, and I hope you have enjoyed the show as much as I do bringing it to you. If you ever miss our shows, you can always tune in on Shaw Cable every Wednesday at 1:30 p.m., Thursday at 8:30 p.m., and Saturdays at 5:30 p.m. All our shows are all broadcasted in Calgary on Channel 10, on Shaw Cable and Network, and also get uploaded to a YouTube channel under the Camilla Singh Shows. Before I take your leave, I bring to you these thoughts. A friend who understands your tears is much more valuable than a lot of friends who only know your smile. Author unknown. I am your host, Meena J. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we look forward to seeing all of you next week on the same channel at the same time. Bye for now.
क्या आप अपना ड्रीम होम खरीदना चाहते हो या अपने घर से पैसे निकालकर अपने किचन या अपने घर को रेनोवेट करना चाहते हो, लेकिन बैंक्स ने आपको मना कर दिया है? आप मुझे कॉल कर सकते हैं, यानी विक प्रसाद को। मैं एक इंडिपेंडेंट मॉर्गेज ब्रोकर हूं जो कई बैंक्स और क्रेडिट यूनियंस और प्राइवेट लेंडर्स के साथ काम करता हूं।
For more information, please call Vic Prasad at 604-306-6647. Vic Prasad is one of the top brokers of Invis Craft Mortgages and is also a member of the Canadian Mortgage Brokers Association of BC.
United Pallets and Crates is located at 11585 134th Street in Surrey, BC. Give Sam Dooler a call at 604-760-2028 or call the office number at 604-634-2001. You can also visit the website, which is www.unitedpalletsandcrates.com, or send us email at info@palletsandcrates.com.